comparison of what's on the drive. This time I've got this 4th generation Subaru Legacy, but it's not just any Legacy. This is a 3.0R Spec B. That means it's got a 3 litre flat 6, 241 horsepower engine on the bonnet, 6-speed manual gearbox, 4-wheel drive, and Bilstein suspension all round. I think this is one of the best Subarus ever, and one of the best, most characterful, fastest estate cars ever as well. I'm going to give you a bit of a walk around the car. I'm going to tell you what's pretty interesting about it. I'm going to tell you what I like, what I don't like, and then later on I'm going to take it on track and give you a flavour of what it's like to drive. This 3.0R Spec B model is unique to Europe. In Japan and the US they got a 2.5 litre turbo, so it's pretty rare and it's pretty unique. I mean, how many estate cars can you think of with a flat 6 engine? What a brilliant car this is. That powertrain dominates the whole car, so that's where I'm going to start. There is that flat 6 heart. It's a very wide engine, although it's very short, and it's mounted longitudinally and all ahead of the front axle as well. Because the car is pretty narrow and the engine's pretty wide, this car has McPherson strut suspension, which is pretty unusual for a longitudinal engine car. You get double wishbone setups quite commonly on these type of cars, and the body is very narrow. It's 1730mm wide. That's narrower than a Golf Mark 5 of the same year, even though that's a class below. This engine is fantastic. If you're not quite sure what a flat engine is, with a regular car the pistons go up and down like that. They're all vertically arranged. In this car they're horizontally opposed. They're like this. And if you're a car buff, you'll tell me that a flat engine and a boxer engine is different, and technically you are right. So if you imagine my elbows are the pistons and my forearms are the column rods, on a flat engine they share a common crankpin, so they go around like this. So one piston goes up, one piston goes down, and obviously you have several layers of that depending if you've got a 2, 4, 6, 12-cylinder engine. But on a boxer engine, which is what this car has, they have different crank pins on opposite sides of the crankshaft, so they move up and down together. I can't tell you too much what the benefits and differences are, but I can tell you that the engine note is very different, and Subaru's engine notes are very distinctive and pretty much define or are infamous with Subarus. This car sounds fantastic, by the way. The reason why the engine is so far forward is because of that 6-speed gearbox. It's of a transaxle design, which means the front diff is integrated into the gearbox, and that moves the whole gearbox forward, and then hence the whole engine ahead of the front axle, like an Audi longitudinal car. That 6-speed manual is actually unique to this car. It's based on the Impreza STI. Makes it pretty hard to get parts for, and in fact the engines and gearbox are all unique to Subarus, which they do at massive cost and with little commonality with other manufacturers for what is relatively small volumes. But it really does define what Subarus are. This car has 4-wheel drive like a lot of big Subarus, which is fairly unsophisticated, but does always send torques at each wheel. It's a permanent 4-wheel drive system. And this car also has something called inverted strut suspension, which is not something that I was particularly familiar with. I've not really come across it on any other car before. Like I said, it's got McPherson strut. If you imagine a damper is like a syringe, but instead of letting fluid out, it lets fluid past the plunger, which gives the damping ability. This car is upside down, so instead of having a piston rod that goes down into the body, this actually has the body here mounted to the top of the body of the car, and the little piston rod, if you like, of the damper is mounted in the bottom. What that means is this is notably thicker. You see many dampers, you'll look at that and think, wow, that is thick. This is yellow because it's Bilstein. This is actually off a Spec B, and it just means, as I understand, it's much stiffer and take much higher loads, and has sort of less flex in it. I really like the styling of this car. I think it's one of the best Subaru designs ever. I think they really lost their way after this car with the hatchback Imprezas and the Legacies that came after this. I love all the creases. I love the proportions of it. I love these headlights. I love how the side lights sort of is suspended over the indicator. On the 3.0R you get a nicer bump, you get the sort of letterbox intake in the middle, and you get chrome surround over the grille as well. It's not a particularly exciting car, but it's really good looking. I love the flush glass, I love the wraparound rear window. The proportions on this car as well are pretty unique. It's got a really long low bonnet, the longer front overhang of the engine position quite far forward, and being a boxer you can have a low bonnet. But you've also got a stepped roof, which is actually quite subtle because it's sort of hidden behind the roof rails. But it's a bit of a styling trait of these Legacies. There's great headroom inside. You've got a long rear overhang being in a estate car with a really long window, but it's exaggerated by the fact that the wheelbase is actually quite short, and you actually sit sort of behind the rear of passengers, sit sort of behind the door. The interior as well, it's probably one of the best Subaru I've ever done as well. Relatively modern looking, high quality, really distinctive, ergonomics are good. This car was probably at the peak of Subaru's competitiveness really, but they've also managed to keep that very unique character to it with that drivetrain. So I reckon now is a good time to go through the top 5 things that I really like about this car, and 5 things that I find quite annoying about it.
Check out these dials, how cool are these? I love this starting sequence that they do, and then when they illuminate they're just so bright and really clear as well. And I think the colour scheme, the red and the white, just makes it feel like a performance product. Also like how when the fuel is low, the ring around the gauge flashes at you along with the light, and also how there is the Legacy script in the dial illuminated as well. I think that's really cool. And then when you turn the car off, oh, look how the red rings stay on and fade. That is just so cool. It just adds a bit of theatre to the car. This car has pillarless doors. Look how cool they are. You know, it's really on trend right now with all these coupe-esque SUVs and estate cars and shooting brakes and all that. But look, this is a humble estate car with pillarless doors up front and back. Look at that. Fantastic. That is so cool. This was the last Legacy to actually have this, but previous generations used to have pillarless doors as well. I really like this glass roof. It's really big and it's in 2 parts and opens with one touch. The first part opens as a deflector and the second part disappears into the roof. And because the roof is so tall, you actually have quite a lot of headroom still. I think it's a really nice touch, that. It's an estate car. Of course it's practical. This is a really well thought out estate car. So you have a massive boot and no load lip, and this nice scuff plate here, retractable parcel shelf like that. You've also got underfloor storage, and the spare wheel is under that. You've got cubbies in the side. You've got fold out hooks on the side here, in the roof. You've got tether points in the roof. You've got your own boot light, and then when you fold the seats, they fold flat, as you can see I'm missing a bit of trim there. But the seat belts stay on the bolsters here, they don't get caught up in the seats when you fold them. So it's just really well thought out, and you've got hooks and stuff as well to mount and tether things too. You may notice the car is a bit battered and bruised in places, and that's because it's an old unmarked police car. That was its first life. I'm the 3rd owner. And it's missing under trays, it had holes drilled all over the dash and wiring everywhere. And I got it and I've removed all that, but it's still looking pretty tatty. It's got 178,000 miles on the clock as well. So it's had a bit of a life. One of the engine in this thing, particularly at low revs. Flat 6 is just so distinctive. Even though the engine feels really smooth, it sounds like almost like it's running on like sand or gravel. It's got sort of quite a coarseness to it, but I absolutely love it. Annoying thing about this car almost daily. So let's say you unlock the car, I'll put your shopping in the boot. I bought a shock absorber. What else would you buy? It goes in the boot, and let's say you spend a few minutes dawdling around putting things in the boot. If you spend too long, I think the allowance is about 30 seconds, then the immobiliser re-engages and it won't let you start the car. If you were to get back in, put the locking on and off on the key, and then start the car. there we go. It's very, very annoying.
I do find it annoying how the lights don't come on inside when you unlock the car. They only come on when you open the door, and when you do, it's just the light in the back that comes on. The reading lights up here don't come on. I do like how the ignition is illuminated, so it's easy to find where you put your key in the dark, but I just find it really annoying how only the back is illuminated, and I just think it's just a bad miss on Subaru's part, really. This really annoys me about this car. One touch window only on the driver's side, so if you've got both windows down, like I now have, because you're cruising around, or maybe you're talking to someone out the passenger window, not uncommon, and you want to put both of them up. Look, this one goes up by itself, but you've got to hold this one up to go all the way down. Surely it doesn't cost that much to put it on the front two windows. Oh, it just so annoys me when car companies do that. I don't think the middle seat belt's particularly well thought out. The door's out the way in the roof, which is quite nice, and clips into a little clipping point down here. You know, it goes on quite nice 3-point seat belt, very good. And you know, the middle seat's not too bad either. But for the person sat next to you, this seat belt's going to be rubbing against their face as you're sat here, which isn't particularly good. If I demonstrate, you know, sat like that, you know, it's either going to be nudging into your neck or flapping on your shoulder. Pretty annoying. Also, to then get the seat belt out and retract into the roof, there's no like button release on it. You need either a blade or a key to then push in the slot and get the belt out. I do think they could have done something better with that. So it's pretty well equipped in here. I've got these fantastic leather electric seats, which are heated. I've got all round electric windows. I've got the electric glass roof. I've got cruise control. I've got 6-disc auto changer and climate control. But it's all very 90s luxury car features. There's nothing particularly advanced in this car. There's no automatic wipers, no automatic lights. There's not even xenon headlights. There's no power folding mirrors. There's no dual zone climate control. There's nothing particularly clever. There's some nice little features like the ability to warm up the wipers before you use them on a cold day. And that roof is pretty cool. And the touchscreen's pretty advanced for this year, but yeah, it's just nothing that clever or particularly. It really dates the car. It feels like an older car in here. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick flavour of what this thing's like to drive. I'm not going to go on about the MVH or the gear shift quality or the steering, because the car's very old and it's very tired and it's a bit knackered, and they're not probably representative. There's only two things I want to talk about. That's the engine and its performance, and the grip that it has. So I'm at this sprint course where I'm going to give it some gusto, and we're going to find out what it's really like to drive, and we're going to have some fun as well. Wow, so it's pretty quick. It picks up pretty fast. I mean, clean 0 to 60 is about 7 seconds, but it feels quicker than that. Wow. So linear, because it's a naturally aspirated engine. It's beautiful. I'm in third gear and I don't really feel like I need to be much lower. It has so much power throughout the entire rev range. The engine, it just sounds lovely as well, and it just revs so nicely. It's quick to rev, but it's not quick to fall out of gears. There's quite a bit of roll. I mean, it's not too bad, but it's probably exaggerated by how much grip is on offer. The track is pretty dry at the moment. And yeah.
grip is fantastic, but you can actually feel there's quite a bit of adjustability in the chassis. There's a bit of understeer, like there, and then there's also a bit of and the back end's going up, oversteer, but it's quite a fine balance, so it's quite a lot of fun actually. This corner is a bit hairy, just wants to go out on you like that, but there you go, that's all. Boy. Wow, that was quite exciting, wasn't it? That's why we like Subarus.
Thank you for watching my video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, comment, and I look forward to releasing my next video.